Look, folks, I mean, come on, man. This is just beyond the pale, what we saw this week with that guy's medical records. I mean, his MR. I live on national television. I'm not talking about some cable news pundit running their mouth. I'm talking about the actual damn images, the Democrats, the good guys, the folks who still believe in a little thing called privacy and decency. They had to go to the mat on this one. Because the other side, the Republicans, the MAGA crowd, the folks who pretend they care about liberty, they were absolutely apoplectic about the sheer gall of showing the American people the truth of what's going on with their supposed leader's health. I mean, it's a hell of a thing, isn't it, that in this country right now, the truth about a president's physical condition is treated like a state secret or some kind of devastating political weapon. And let me tell you something, this ain't about gloating. This isn't about scoring political points, though God knows they make it easy. It's about transparency. It's about the very basic contract a president has with the people he purports to serve. And right now, that contract, that sacred trust, is broken, shattered into a million little pieces, like a cheap mirror. And the fact that the GOP, the whole damn party, is throwing a tantrum like a couple of kids who had their ice cream cones stolen, all because the American people got a peek behind the curtain at what the doctors are really seeing, that tells you everything you need to know about where their priorities lie. And let me tell you, they ain't with you. The forgotten men and women of this country, they're with him, the guy with the bad hair and the worst temperament, the guy who thinks the rules don't apply to him, never have, never will. Welcome back to the Briefing Room with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Biden. Now listen up, here's the deal. Before we get into the meat of this thing, before we dissect this whole sorry mess like a freshman biology student, you've got to hit that button, that subscribe button right now, because I'm telling you straight up, no malarkey. This channel is the only place you're going to get the unvarnished truth. The whole kit and caboodle, without the spin and without the endless bloviating you get everywhere else. So do yourself a favor, do your country a favor, and subscribe right now. Let's get to work. So where do you even start with a story this bananas, where a man who wants to be president again is having his damn MR? I results the technical images themselves, not some sanitized press release from a White House doctor who's probably afraid of losing his job, put up there for the world to see. I mean, my God, man, it's a spectacle. And the fury of the Republicans, the sheer volume of their outrage is the most predictable thing you've seen since the sun rose this morning. They are screaming about privacy, about HIPAA violations, about political espionage, like this is some kind of spy thriller. But let's just peel back the onion here a little bit, shall we? Let's look at what's really going on, what the implications are, because this ain't just a political dust-up. It's a symptom, a flashing red light on the dashboard of our democracy. Now, first off, the context is key. We all remember when this guy went to Walter Reed for an unscheduled visit under the veil of secrecy, didn't we? The official story was it was just a routine part of his annual physical no big deal move along, nothing to see here but the press pool, the folks whose job it is to keep us all honest. They smelled a rat, a big one, and they started asking questions, good, tough questions like where's the transparency, why the sudden trip, why the secrecy? But the walls went up immediately, stonewalled, just like everything else with that administration. And now years later, or maybe it was just a few months ago, depending on how fast the news cycle is spinning this week, we find out that part of that secretive visit was indeed an MRI, a magnetic resonance imaging scan for the folks at home. That's not something you get because you stubbed your toe or you ate too many McDonald's cheeseburgers. An MRI is serious. It's a deep dive into the soft tissue, the brain, the organs to look for things you don't want to talk about in public, things that could raise serious questions about a person's fitness to hold the most demanding job on the planet. And the initial pushback from his folks was just as weak as a cup of coffee at a bad diner. They said it was all clear, nothing to see. He aced a cognitive test, a test that I could have passed at the tender age of 8 years old. For God's sake, it's not a real measure of presidential capacity. It's a baseline check. But that wasn't enough for the American people because they've been lied to before, haven't they? They know the drill now. And the minute this MRI came up, the questions started flying. What part of his body did they scan? Why was it necessary? What were the results? And he, in his typical fashion, first denied he even knew what part of his body was scanned, which is a ridiculous, preposterous statement for a grown man to make about his own medical procedure. But then he pivoted and said he would release the results, that they were perfect. The most beautiful results, the best results anyone has ever seen. But you know what happened? Then zip zero, nada. He never released them, He never followed through on the promise. And that's where the Democrats came in. That's where the House Oversight Committee or the Intelligence Committee, or whatever poor soul has to deal with this garbage came in and said enough is enough. We're talking about a man who wields the nuclear codes, who sets foreign policy, who represents this country to the world. The American people have a right to know if he's physically and mentally fit to do the job. And let's be straight. The push for this transparency wasn't arbitrary. It was provoked by the man himself, who has relentlessly attacked the health and age of every single one of his opponents in the most cruel and personal ways possible. He weaponized the health question, so he has absolutely no standing, no moral ground to stand on to complain when the focus shifts to him. It's the definition of a chicken's coming home to roost moment. And then comes the moment, the bombshell, the cable news moment that lit up every phone in America. Someone, some brave soul, maybe a staffer on the committee, maybe a whistleblower, maybe a guy who just got fed up with the hypocrisy, put those MRI images up on a screen live on TV during a hearing. Now, we don't know the exact mechanism yet. The details are murky, but the image was there for everyone to see, a radiological scan on a massive screen, and you could hear a pin drop across the country. And I'm telling you, the gasp that went through the halls of Congress must have been deafening. And the moment it happened, the Republican fury was immediate. It was volcanic. It was frankly unhinged. They immediately shut down the hearing. They started demanding investigations into the leak. They were frothing at the mouth about the sanctity of patient privacy. And it's here, folks, it's right here that the whole damn thing becomes a parody, a cruel joke, because these are the same people, the very same folks, who have spent years enabling a president who has shown a complete and utter disregard for every norm, every custom, every rule of decency, and now they want to draw a line in the sand over his medical privacy. Come on, man, give me a break. It's insulting to the intelligence of the American people. Think about the sheer hypocrisy, the chutzpah of these guys. They were perfectly fine when that same former president was demanding that my son Hunter's personal life and records be spread all over the internet, when they were holding sham hearings about my family, when they were trying to dig up every piece of dirt on any Democrat they could find. But the minute it touches him, the golden calf, the guy they worship, suddenly they're constitutional scholars worried about due process and medical privacy. It's a joke, a sad, pathetic joke that shows their allegiance is not to the Constitution, not to the country, not to the rule of law, but to one man and one man alone. And you know what? The most damning thing is the most telling detail. The thing that should keep every American up at night is that the discussion immediately pivoted away from what those images might have shown. No one on the Republican side wanted to talk about the content of the scan. What was the diagnosis? What was the prognosis? What did the bright spots or the dark shadows on that film actually mean for his ability to lead? They just wanted to talk about the leak, the process, the crime of showing the images itself. And that avoidance, that pivot, is a massive red flag. It suggests that whatever those images showed, whatever the medical reality is, it's not the rosy picture that they have been painting for the American public, and the American people deserve better than a cover-up. They deserve to know the full score, the full health of the person who wants to sit in the Oval Office. Let's dive a little deeper into the GOP's reaction and what it really signals. They've used terms like unprecedented political weaponization, a Soviet-style attack on a political opponent, an invasion of privacy. And while in a normal world, one, where we had normal politics and normal people in power, they might have a point about the privacy of a patient's medical records. This ain't a normal world. This is the world that they created by making his health a constant topic of speculation, by his own contradictory statements, by the lack of transparency in the first place, and by the relentless politicization of medical records that they have engaged in against their foes. They set the damn precedent. They built the sandcastle. And now they're shocked, I tell you, that the tide came in and washed it away. And the deep fury isn't just about privacy, folks. It's about control. It's about controlling the narrative, something that man is obsessed with. He has to be seen as the strongest, the fittest, the sharpest mind in the room the minute a medical scan suggests otherwise, the minute the cold, hard science of an MRI contradicts his carefully crafted image of perfect health. The whole facade, the whole myth they've built starts to crumble. And that's what truly terrifies the Republican establishment, that a simple picture, a simple image of a brain or an organ or a blood vessel could be the thing that takes him down, not the investigations, not the lawsuits, not the impeachments, but a vulnerability, a real human frailty. And they can't have that because their whole political identity is wrapped up in his perceived strength, his invincibility. And so they lash out, they scream, they attack the media, the Democrats, the whistleblower, anyone who dared to show the American people the truth. And the implications of this go far beyond just one man's health. This sets a precedent, a dangerous one, but also a necessary one in the political environment they have cultivated. If a candidate or a sitting president refuses to release crucial health information that is directly relevant to their ability to govern, and that information is obtained and released through other means, is that a tragedy or is it an act of journalistic and democratic necessity? I lean toward the latter. When the system is corrupt, when the norms are shattered, sometimes you got to break a little glass to let the light in, and the fact that they're trying to turn the person who released the MRI into a villain, a criminal, someone who has violated the sacred trust while they ignore the violation of public trust that the cover-up represents. That is the core dishonesty of the modern Republican Party. They will always, always, always defend the lie over the truth, the secrecy over the transparency, if it benefits their political master. And this isn't just about his physical health either. An MRI can reveal things about the brain, about neurological function, about past strokes, or other events that could absolutely impact his cognitive abilities, his decision-making, his temperament, and given his erratic behavior, his rambling speeches, his often nonsensical statements, the public concern isn't just idle gossip, it's legitimate. It's a profound and necessary inquiry into the fitness of a man to lead the nation. And I'm telling you, the American people aren't stupid. They know a cover-up when they see one. They've been around the block a few times. And the fact that the entire Republican apparatus is mobilizing to protect one man's medical secret while actively trying to destroy the reputations and the lives of those who exposed it. That is the story here, folks, not the image itself, but the reaction to it. The sheer panic that the truth might actually get out. And let's talk about the history of this for a second, because this isn't the first time the health of a president has been a major issue, from FDR's polio to JFK's Addison's disease to Ronald Reagan's surgery after the assassination attempt, and later questions about his cognitive decline. Presidents and their teams have always tried to control the narrative around their health. It's a political reality, but what's different now is the scale of the deceit and the weaponization of the issue. The president or his surrogates spent years questioning the physical and mental health of opponents, calling them Sleepy Joe or worse, and they laid the groundwork for this kind of counterattack. They fired the first shot in this particular culture war over health, and now they're shocked when the war comes back to their doorstep. You reap what you sow, Jack. And this isn't some deep state conspiracy. This is a consequence of their own actions, a direct result of their own lack of transparency and their own history of political attacks. And I want to be clear about something else. The outrage over the leak is performative. It's for the cameras. It's for the Fox News audience, because deep down, deep down, even the most loyal Republicans have to be asking themselves, what in God's name was on that image? What are they trying to hide that is so bad that the entire party has to burn down the house of patient privacy to keep it secret? Because if it was truly benign, if it was truly perfect and beautiful, why not release a clean copy with a clear doctor's report from an independent, nonpartisan physician? Why the secrecy? Why the drama? Why the tantrum? They know the answer, and it's a dangerous one. Now let's talk about the future implications of this for a minute, because this isn't going away. No matter how loud the GOP screams the genie is out of the bottle, the American people have seen the picture, or at least they know it exists, and the whole health narrative has fundamentally shifted. The question is no longer if he's healthy, but what is wrong with him, and why are they lying about it? And this sets up a whole new level of scrutiny for every single candidate going forward. The old days of a brief doctor's note saying, everything is hunky-dory, they're overfinished, kaput. The American people now know that what they're being told is often a carefully manufactured lie. And that's a good thing for democracy, because transparency, even when it's ugly, even when it's messy, even when it violates a norm, is still better than secrecy and a cover-up. And the Republicans are going to try to make the whistleblower or the person who leaked this a martyr for the cause of privacy. But the Democrats and the media and the decent people in this country need to hold the line. They need to keep asking the questions, and they need to keep the focus on the content of the scan and the reasons for the cover-up, not the process of the leak. because if we let them pivot away from the substance, then they win and the American people lose. And that's a tragedy we cannot afford. I mean, think about it. The spectacle of a political party actively trying to prevent the public from knowing about the physical condition of a candidate for the highest office in the land, it's a dystopian nightmare, and it shows just how far they are willing to go, how much of the democratic process they are willing to trash just to protect one man's ego and his political ambitions. It's unpatriotic, it's un-American, and frankly, it's just not right. And I'm going to tell you something else this whole episode, the MRI. The leak, the GOP fury, it feeds directly into the well of conspiracy theories that is constantly bubbling around this man, the whispers about a stroke, about a mini stroke, about some underlying neurological condition. Now they have a visual anchor. They have something tangible that will feed the online rumor mills for months and years to come. And that's not something to celebrate, folks, because conspiracy theories erode trust in institutions, in the media, in government itself. But you know who created those conditions, who created the perfect environment for those theories to flourish. The people who lie, the people who obfuscate, the people who treat the truth like it's a dangerous enemy, and they should look in the mirror and see their own hand in this, because they and the man they defend are the ones who made it impossible to trust the official story. And when you can't trust the official story, the people will invent their own. And the Democratic side on this needs to be very careful and very deliberate not to just speculate about the images, but to use them as a lever for legitimate inquiry, to demand a full and independent release of all relevant medical data, and to tie this directly to the issue of presidential fitness and the abuse of power. I mean, we're talking about a guy who thinks he's an expert on everything, an expert on trade, on foreign policy, on the military, and he couldn't even tell the American people what part of his body they scanned for an MRI. It's just unbelievable. The level of disrespect for the intelligence of the American people is stunning. And the Republican fury, the absolute meltdown, is the sound of them realizing that they are losing control of the narrative, that the truth has slipped out of their grasp, and that, my friends, is a beautiful, beautiful thing for American democracy. We got a long way to go. A long way to go, but every little victory for transparency and accountability is a step in the right direction, and you got to fight for it. You got to fight like hell for it every single day. And what about the legal side of this? Let's pivot for a minute to the HIPAA question, the whole privacy argument that the Republicans are waving around like a flag made of used tissues. And listen, I'm a big believer in privacy. I believe in the sanctity of a patient's right to their own medical information, but there are exceptions, there are limits, especially when you're talking about a public servant, especially when you're talking about the President of the United States. And the health of the President has long been considered a matter of public interest, a legitimate concern for the nation's well-being. And while the release of the raw images in this manner is certainly unconventional, to say the least, it raises a fascinating legal and ethical question. Does a president's expectation of privacy outweigh the public's right to know about a condition that could affect national security and the ability to govern? In my book, the answer is a resounding no. The public interest in presidential fitness is paramount. It trumps almost everything else, and the Republicans know this. They know that using HIPAA as a shield here is a weak legal argument. At best, it's a political talking point, a way to distract from the real issue. And the real issue is that they've been caught hiding something, and they are scrambling. They are absolutely scrambling to clean up the mess. And the whole situation is a perfect encapsulation of the Trump era, where norms are destroyed, where rules are ignored, and where the political advantage is always the only thing that matters. And the sheer volume of their outrage, the faux indignation, it's a measure of how badly they were hurt by this leak, how much it threatens their entire strategy for this next election cycle. They had one job: to keep the focus on my age, to keep the focus on manufactured crises. And the minute those MRI images hit the screen, their whole plan went up in smoke. And now they're just wandering around, pointing fingers, yelling at the clouds like a bunch of confused chickens. And I'm telling you, the American people see it. They see the distraction, they see the deflection, and they know something is rotten in the state of Denmark. And the press has a responsibility here too, a serious one, not to get caught up in the process drama, but to relentlessly pursue the substance, to find out what those images mean, to get independent medical opinions, to force the issue of presidential transparency back onto the front burner. And this isn't about me or him. This is about the office, the presidency, and the fundamental trust that must exist between a leader and the people they lead. And right now, that trust is at its lowest point in modern history, and this MRI debacle is just the latest kick in the teeth to the American people. And the GOP's reaction just solidifies the suspicion that they are actively complicit in a cover-up of their leader's health. And I'm telling you, that's a dereliction of duty. It's a violation of their oath of office. It's a fundamental betrayal of the trust that the voters put in them. And they should be held accountable for it, every single one of them, who stood up there and screamed about privacy while ignoring the national security implications of an unwell leader. And this isn't the kind of thing you just sweep under the rug. This isn't a small gaffe, a misspoken word. This is a major political event, a moment where the curtain was pulled back and the wizard was exposed for who he truly is. A man whose health is clearly a major concern and whose allies are willing to go to extraordinary and dishonest lengths to keep that a secret. And that's the real scandal, folks. That's the real story that the American people need to focus on and understand. So when you hear them screaming about the Democrats playing politics or violating HIPAA or engaging in Soviet tactics, you just need to remember one simple thing. They are screaming because they got caught and they are terrified of the truth. And the American people deserve the truth. And that's what this fight is all about. It's about the fundamental right to know, to have a full and honest picture of the person who wants to run this country, the greatest country in the history of the world. And if they're not willing to be transparent about something as basic and as critical as their own health, what else are they hiding? What other secrets are they keeping from the American people? It's a dangerous path, folks, a very dangerous path, and we've got to stand up and fight back and demand the full truth, nothing less, because the stakes are too high. The cost of getting this wrong is just too damn much. And I mean it sincerely, the integrity of our democracy, the safety of our nation, the standing of the United States in the world, all of it hangs in the balance. And we cannot afford to have a commander-in-chief whose fitness is constantly in question, whose medical records are a closely guarded secret, and whose political party is actively working to cover up the truth. And that's why this MRI story, the leak, and the subsequent meltdown is so much more than just a news cycle. It's a moment of reckoning, a moment of truth for the entire Republican Party and for the state of American politics. And I'm telling you, the future of the Republic depends on how we respond to this. We can't let this slide. We can't look the other way. We got to keep our eyes on the ball. And the ball is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And the Republicans can scream all they want, but the picture is worth 1,000 words. And the whole world saw it, and the whole world knows. They know he's not who he says he is. They know he's hiding something big. And they know that the people who exposed it did the right thing, the necessary thing for the good of the country. So let's make sure we amplify that message and we hold these guys accountable every single step of the way. It's a fight for the soul of America, and it's a fight we can't afford to lose, not now, not ever. We are the United States of America, for God's sake, and we deserve a leader who is honest with us about his health and everything else. Come on, man. The sheer volume of the GOP's complaints is also a strategic move. It's a smokescreen, a political rope-a-dope to try and shift the entire discussion from the substance of the health concerns to the process of the leak. And we cannot fall for that. We absolutely cannot let them succeed in that bait and switch, because the core issue, the damn thing that matters, is not how the American people found out about the MRI, but why it was taken and what it revealed. And the more they shout about the sanctity of privacy, the more it confirms the suspicion that the contents of that scan are devastating to their narrative of a supremely healthy, vigorous leader. And that's the tell, folks. That's the tell. A poker player would fold his hand right there because their bluff has been called, and now they're just left sputtering and angry and trying to overturn the table. But the cards are already on the felt for everyone to see. And the level of coordination in their response is also something to watch. Every single high-ranking Republican, every pundit, every cable news talking head is using the exact same talking points. It's all about the leak, the deep state, the political weaponization. It's a unified message of distraction, and it's a sign of a party in deep crisis, desperately trying to protect their most valuable and most vulnerable asset. And what this really reveals is the profound hypocrisy in their political philosophy. They claim to stand for liberty and transparency and the rule of law. But when it comes down to protecting the man who gives them power, all those principles fly out the window. They'll torch every democratic norm, every custom, every ethical boundary, just to keep him in power and keep his secrets safe. And that's a dangerous path for a political party to take. Because once you abandon principles, all you have left is raw power. And that's how democracies die. That's how we slide into authoritarianism. And this is not an exaggeration. This is the plain, simple truth. And The whole world is watching us right now. They're watching to see if the American system, if the American people will stand up for the truth, or if we will let ourselves be hoodwinked by a coordinated campaign of outrage and obfuscation. And I know this country, I know the character of the American people, and I believe we will choose the truth, we will choose transparency, and we will choose a leader who is honest with us about the basic facts of his own damn life. And let's go back to the source of the leak for a second, because that's what the GOP wants us to focus on. But think about the moral courage it took for that person to do what they did, to risk their entire career, their reputation, their future, all to reveal a piece of information that they clearly believed the American people had a fundamental right to know. That's an act of patriotism, folks, not an act of treachery. That is someone who put country over party, over career, and over the political machine. And that kind of bravery should be applauded, not prosecuted. And the fact that the Republicans are immediately demanding the head of this person on a platter that tells you all you need to know about their moral compass. It's broken, it's fundamentally flawed, and it only points in one direction, toward the protection of their own power and the protection of their dear leader. And this whole episode is a profound teaching moment for the country. It's a lesson in political spin and propaganda. In the absolute lengths a political party will go to conceal a devastating truth. And the MRI itself, whatever it showed, is just the MacGuffin. It's the plot device. The real story is the reaction, the furious, unhinged, coordinated reaction of the Republican establishment. That is the thing that history will record as the true moment of scandal. And this is a deep dive into the kind of politics we're dealing with. It's a politics of spectacle, of distraction, of absolute bad faith. And we have to be smarter than that. We have to be tougher than that. And we have to be more committed to the truth than they are to their lies. And that's the work ahead of us, folks. That's the job we have to do every single day, not just on this channel, not just in the political arena, but in our communities, in our workplaces, in our own families. We have to stand up for the truth, and we have to demand accountability from those who seek to lead us. And this MRI leak is a gift in a bizarre, awful way. It's a moment. It's of clarity, a chance to cut through the noise and see the core reality of what we're facing. A party that is willing to lie to the American people about something as basic as the health of their candidate. And that's a level of deceit that should be disqualifying for anyone who seeks the highest office in the land, and the consequences of ignoring this are dire. They are profound. They are a threat to the stability of our nation, and we cannot afford to look the other way. Not now, not ever. The American people deserve to know the full picture, the full diagnosis, and the full extent of the cover-up, and the Republican fury is just a confirmation, a definitive exclamation point on the fact that a massive deception has been taking place. And the only way to heal this country, to bring us back to a place of common sense and decency and basic honesty, is to relentlessly pursue the truth, no matter how inconvenient, no matter how messy, no matter how many times the other side screams about political weaponization. We have to keep our eyes on the prize, and the prize is a return to a government that is honest with its people, a government that operates on transparency, not on secrecy and lies. And this MRI story is a perfect example of why we can't let our guard down, why we can't afford to be complacent, because the minute we look away, they'll go right back to the cover-up. They'll go right back to the lies, and we'll be right back where we started. And that is a cycle that we have to break for the good of the country, for the future of our kids and our grandkids. We owe it to them to leave them a country that is honest and decent and governed by people who put the country first, not themselves or their own personal political ambitions. So let's make sure we keep the pressure on. Let's make sure we keep demanding answers. And let's make sure that the truth, the whole damn truth, wins the day. No malarkey. That's the bottom line.